So we're back in your beautiful home.
Yes.
In Oxfordshire.
That's right.
Now, this is home, but born Isle of Man, brought up Manchester, Australia, house in Miami.
Right.
Is this home?
I think this is basically home, yes. This is where I feel that home is.
What constitutes home, then? Is it sort of the nicest bricks and mortar, because this is pretty nice, or is it?
And also England, because of the culture I like, and because, you know, I'm British, and it's just where I feel most at home.
Yeah. Now, in this fantastic house, you've had a few visitors wandering around who are slightly uninvited. How have you coped?
Well, there was a few drunks from the village, you mean? Yeah,
yeah, your mates.
Yeah.
No, but you've had stalkers and obsessive fans, haven't you? As of course you would.
The odd one, which is, I mean, fortunately, it turned out to be quite safe, but people try to break in and stuff like that in the early hours of the morning, which you have to be on your guard for.
Well, how do you come to terms with that? And is that an aspect of the fame and the industry that...
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just something that happens from time to time. I think a lot of fans, well, I wouldn't say a lot, but there are a rare few that will actually think, because they followed you so closely, they begin to build up a familiarity kind of complex where they feel that when they see you, that you should know them. You see, and that's what you have to be careful of. And when you don't acknowledge them, they get very upset.
Back to this gorgeous house. Now, tell me about summer. It's obviously steeped in history.
It is.
1,000 years old.
1,000 years old, yep.
Who's wandering around within these walls, then?
Well, I have to admit that I've not personally seen a ghost in this house, but my personal assistant has seen a ghost quite a few times, walking in and out of walls, even in my dining room and my living room. And I have a font which fills up with water on its own accord. And
how does that make you feel? Are these friendly ghosts? I mean, I'm fascinated by it. I'd love it.
It doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
Because I always see it, I've been on my own in the house before, and it's always, I always take the point that it's my house, and I'm the one that's in charge here, so if there's any ghosts here, they're going to have to deal with me, and I'm not going to be scared of them.
Oh, that's pretty confident.
It is,
because I would have thought
so,
that, you know...
I think it's pretty nice of me, actually.
Well, if they can go through walls, I'd say they've got kind of the upper hand on you.
See, I don't think there's any such thing as ghosts. In terms, I think what we're seeing is, when we see a ghost, what we're seeing people living their lives a few hundred years ago for a split second. So
but that's a ghost, isn't it?
Not necessarily. They could be actually living. You're actually viewing the past going on at the same time. So it's...
That's a whole...
It is. But you see, it's a more
porridge,
scientific way of looking at something rather than a paranormal or supernatural way of looking.
So if you need scientific theories, or look to scientific, or look to science for things like ghosts, for explanations, how do you marry that with your wife who practices as a druid? I mean, you've got a stone circle that in your
but
grounds.
it's not. There are no rituals or anything like that. You know, in actual essence, it is a way of life and a way of thinking more than anything, and it's a positive and a good way of thinking and a good way of life. It can have benefits.
Does it take the place of an organised religion?
No, not at all. Not at all. It is a way of thinking purely.
Because you have your chapel.
Yes,
it's absolutely
it's a consecrated chapel and has been for 800 years. You know, we haven't changed it. It was actually a consecrated Catholic chapel.
Right.
And it's remained that way. It hasn't changed.
But that's a kind of a historical obligation or duty as much as your own sort of religious need. I think, you know, all religions form, particularly even Christian ones, form a basis of good, and there's value in all of them, and we can learn from all of them. And I think it's important that we maintain a lot of that in this world, with the way the world is. Have you ever brought this spiritual side into your music? How much of an influence would it have?
Well, I don't really like to introduce too much, because to actually introduce it into music is a different aspect of what people... It's not something that people accept in the mainstream of, you know, a spiritual kind in music. One obviously would like to do that, but it's not something that's totally accepted.
So there aren't sort of... You wouldn't give messages, but there must be a reflection of how you're feeling.
Well, there's a reflection of how I feel, yes, but I don't like to preach.
So we started by saying, going solo. People probably want a little bit of reassurance that in heart, Bee Gee.
Yes, I am a Bee Gee, and the Bee Gees will be recording again in the new year.
I love that. I am a Bee Gee.
I am a Bee Gee.
Well, it's lovely to meet you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
Well, quite sad now because, as I think we said earlier, that interview was recorded several days ago before the sad news about Maurice Gibb, who's Robin's twin, who died in Miami in the very early hours of this morning. So our real sympathies with the Gibb family. Great group of Bee Gees.
Yeah.